Hello, welcome back. Thanks for coming over to see what I've got going on today. Well, I'm back in this very old book, and this book was published in 1852, over 170 years ago. And this book has a lot of illustrations in it. It has a lot of news articles. It was a book that was published about every 2 or 3 months or whatever, and it was used as a coffee table book, also as a newspaper. It has a lot of things like that. But I found this picture of this guy in here, and I'm going to call him Edward. So Edward and this girl that I found in here too are going to meet in the 1850s. It's a story I'm just kind of telling with my journal as I make some journals. And so today I'm going to start Edward's journal. I've also been coffee dyeing a bunch of this paper. I just took these 2 books apart and started coffee dyeing all this paper. So I've got all this paper. And I'm going to start making a journal for Edward. And I think we're going to do it in a traveler's notebook style. Let me move this stuff and I'll get started with the journal. Okay, so I found a piece of this faux leather. And I'm just going to use this for the journal because I have it. And that's a good size for a journal. And so I'm just going to fold this in half and make it into a traveler's notebook. But inside, I'm just going to glue this piece of fabric, and then I've also got another piece that I just took and just folded it in half. Just made a piece like this and folded it in half, and I'm going to put it down here so it can be a pocket. But I wanted it a little bit stiffer, so I just took the back of this book that I did, and I've cut a piece inside this, and I'm just going to put, I may cut this in half and just put a piece here and here. But I'm just going to put a stiffer piece inside there to make it, yeah, I think it'd be better if I cut 2 pieces. That way it can fold it better. Anyway, and then just put it in there and then possibly sew this down. And then I will glue this all down. So this will be basically the journal cover. And then inside it, I want to do 2 signatures. So I just got this scrapbook paper and cut it down the size of this. And then I'm going to fold this in half, and then I'm going to take some of our paper that we've got and fold that. I think it will go this direction pretty good. And then I'm going to round all the corners too. So also I'm going to round all the corners, but I'm just going to cut this and fold in several pieces of paper, probably about no more than 10, if that many. And then I'll put those in there and sew those signatures together. And then I'll get ready to start putting this together. Okay, so I'm getting ready to make the signatures. And I folded all the papers going this direction because I think they will fit in our signatures better. And then the papers that I dyed all came out of these books. This one and this one. And they were in there like that. So I just cut the papers out and then coffee dyed them all like this. Now I wish I had known what I was going to do, what size I needed when I dyed all these, because I like all the edges and how they do that, where when I cut them off they're not going to be as crispy edges like this and everything. But you know, it is what it is at this point. I'm not going to redo all that. But while I'm sitting here folding these and rounding the corners on all of them and all this stuff, I'm going to give you a little bit of story about Edward. That's who the journal is made for. Okay, we're making this journal for Edward, and he is going to be documenting what's going on in his life in the year 1850, 1852, something like that. So we're going to get ready to make a journal for him. And he lives in Boston, and he's don't know for sure what he wants to do. He really would like to be a poet, and he likes writing poetry, but his dad is not keen on that. His dad wants him to join the military, and he's already got him enrolled in West Point. And so his life is going to change. He doesn't realize it yet, but something is going to happen in this winter of 1852 that's going to change his life and what he's going to think he wants to do. So we're going to have to hang in there and see what's going on with that. But let me get this put together here. Let me, how many signatures we got in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want about 6 pages in this. Okay, so back to the story. Of course, I'm just making this up as I go along. I really don't know. I'm hoping I can keep up with what I'm saying and what I'm doing at the same time. But I think it would be fun to tell a little story and just make something up as you go along. So if you've got any suggestions on this story, just, you know, give me some suggestions below. I think that would be kind of fun to play along with it and what we got going on, because when I get it made, then I'm going to come back in and do some art pages, some journaling about his life, and just making up things like that. So this is what I plan on doing. So on this one, I'm going to be doing this more solid paper on that one. Okay. So let me see what all we got going on, what Edward's got going on right now. He's not doing much right now. His dad is got him enrolled in West Point, and he's wanting to take a year off or to do something. That was kind of unusual at this period of time, is to take a gap year, but Edward wants to just take what we call now a gap year. He wants to just take some time off and figure out what he wants to do. Well, his dad is telling him that he needs to buckle down, get his schooling behind him, and become an officer like he is. And so he's got, of course, connections, and where he's got him already enrolled, and he's already got all that stuff. Well, there's a lot going on in Boston at this time. You know, so much going on. The city is moving fast. I mean, it's changing continuously. And Edward likes to get out with his friends and do some fun stuff. And just, you know, there's a lot going on. But he wants to maybe write some poems, which he really has already got some poems written that's been published in that book. But he published it under his pen name, so his dad won't know that he's doing that. So, yeah, so we're going to copy some of his poems, tear out some of his poems out of that book, and put them in here too. So this is what we got going on for now. Let me get these put together, and then I'm just going to simply sew this. I'm going to poke holes in there and then just sew the signatures together, and then I'll be right back. So I've probably showed you many times how to just do a plain pamphlet stitch, but I'll go over a little bit more with this one. So we're just going to poke a hole in the middle, and we're going to do this 5 holes here. So we're going to put one about halfway down here, about halfway down there, one pretty close to the bottom, and one pretty close to the top. And then I've took a needle threader and threaded my needle, which is here somewhere. And then I'm starting from the inside. Sometimes I start from the outside, but this time I'm going to start from the inside, just going in and out. And this is how it will look when we get it done. So, there's the center. Yeah. And then I'm just going to leave the threads inside because I'm not sure. I may put something on them as we do our book. So I'm just going to sew this one in like this. Just go in, out from here. And then in the next hole. And then out. And the next one. Out the next one, and then back up through those. Back in this one. The biggest thing is you don't want to snag that thread and get it hung, because that really kind of messes up everything if you go in the center of your threads. So back out there, and then in this one, and then just tie off the threads, even it up and tie it off. And so that's how you do that pamphlet stitch. And then we'll get ready to put our fabric on. Where'd our fabric go? On this, on our journal cover. And then I'll get back and show you how to make the holes. Back to Edward. So also, there's so much going on, like I said, in Boston, and they have balls, and they go to the opera, and they do all kinds of stuff. And his family is a little bit high society, because his mom is kind of like, she comes from money in Boston. And a little bit more about his mom later. Edward is going to, some way or another, meet this girl, and he hasn't met her yet, so we don't know anything about her yet, but that's coming up, and he's going to be meeting her. But right now, he is spending his time with his friends, and it's been told that this is going to be one of the coldest winters. So we've got things going on. But even though the winter is cold in Boston, they're used to it. And they said there's a lot of activities going on. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. We're going to have fun watching Edward's life. Okay, back to the journal. I went and put the fabric down and glued it down. But before I did that, I put cardboard in the pockets. And I also stitched the lining down, the pockets down onto the other fabric before I glued it down. Then after I glued it down, I went in and punched holes all the way around, and actually I punched one each time I was doing that. And then I took this wax thread, or this wax binding cord, and then a large needle, and just went all the way around that. So I just tied it up at the top, and I've also left those strings on there because I think I'm maybe adding like a small charm or something on there at some point. But this is a working journal, so we're going to be working in it hopefully maybe once a month or something. So we're going to add Edward's story in there, so we've got to, you know, do some more stuff in it. So anyway, so this is what I've got so far, and then I'm going to put these signatures in there with a elastic, like a traveler's notebook style. So I've got this cording, and I just got this round cording, elastic cording from Walmart, and I've cut a piece of it about, well, I've cut it about 3 times. I think that's probably going to be too long, but I've cut it about 3 times the width of this. It may not be long enough. I don't know. It's got to go in and out and then back in. No, it's just got to go in and out twice. Okay. All right. So now we've got to find the center of this. So I have this little ruler here that marks in the center first. So I've got just a crayon because that way it'll wipe off. So I'm going to find the middle of this. I'm going to find the middle here and just put a mark. I don't know if you can see it, but I can barely see it, but that's okay. That's all I want, just to be able to barely see the center of it. And then find the top of it here, which I've actually done pretty good. I think I've got my knot in the middle there, so that's pretty good. So that's going to be the center of that. And then I'm going to come back in with my Crop-A-Dile because I've got to have big enough holes for this cord to go through. And I'm going to take the smaller hole there and punch 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. I am going to end up punching a hole in the middle, but that's for the tie. But that's in a minute. First we got to do is 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. Okay, so I've punched 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom, right in the middle there, like that. And then I've just took my elastic and I started inside, went through that hole, back through this one, basically just back and forth. So I'll have 2 elastic cords here. Now I've got to tie this off, but you don't want to tie it so tight that your book pulls up like this, but you want it tight enough that when you put your signatures in, that it's going to be in like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have one signature under this cord like this, and then the other signature will be under that cord. So right now I've just got to tie this off, but let's see how tight we want it. And I'm going to tie mine in the middle. That way when I put that one in the book, or when I put the signature in, it will be in the middle of the book, so you won't actually be able to see it. So I'm just going to tie it here. I'm not going to cut this cord off until I see if it works. I can always try to untie it, hopefully. Okay. All right. See, it's bending up a little bit, but not much. And then be able to put our signatures in like this. One in this one, and then try to even them up in there. One under this one. So that's how we're putting our signatures in our traveler's notebook. Now I need to put some kind of a binding around it. I can also do elastic cording around it and maybe poke a hole there and then put elastic cording. I think that's probably what we'll do next. So anyway, so that's how we've got these in here. Now I've just got to get the cord around it, and then we'll be through with this one. So I'm going to try to finish up this journal that we're making for Edward, and I've took out the signatures for now, and I've went ahead and punched a hole in the middle of this. Then I've found this, or I've taken a piece of our elastic cording and cut it a little bit longer than the width of the book. I've also found these vintage jewelry that I think should be probably from the 1950s. And these are cufflinks. I think they're kind of cute. I was going to cut off the bottom part of it, but I kind of like the way it sounds, so I'm just going to leave it on there. And so I'm going to thread that through there. This is just for looks. It's not really serving a purpose, but I think it's going to be kind of cute. And then I'm going to thread both ends through our hole there. And then I need to determine how long I want the elastic to be. I don't want it to go outside the book, but I want it to be just about like that. So basically, move that for a second. Basically, the elastic needs to be almost the width of the book. Because when we fill it up and we make it more chunky, it needs a little bit more elastic anyway. So it needs to be something like that. So this is where I need to flip it over and tie my knot about like that. Now, I've tied the knots before, and they just pull through. So I've got some buttons, and I found a button that just has 2 holes. I like the little brown buttons, but I didn't have any of those that had just the 2 holes in them. So I'm going to thread those through. Probably have to cut that off so I can get it through there. So I'm going to thread that through the button like this. And this is going to keep this knot from coming, or our string from pulling through to the outside. I'm not really crazy about having that button there because it is going to kind of make a dent in our journal, but I think it will still be okay. And then I'm just going to tie a knot on top of that. Then I'm just going to, for now, set the journals back in here and see if this works. And then we're just going to take the elastic, and this will be our closure that hold our journal together. And I kind of like the sound of that with that end on there, so I'm going to leave that on there. I also found some other pieces of jewelry that are kind of cool. These, Google is your best friend when you're looking up stuff like this, because I didn't know what it was. It's a really cute little lapel pin. I think I'm going to put this on the journal, and I'm also going to add some more stuff. This is a Honor Society pin, a National Honor Society pin, and I'm thinking Edward got this when he was in high school. And like I told you earlier, Edward is 20, but that is a little older for most people who just graduated high school. So he had a little bit of physical issues that kept him from attending school a couple of years when he was younger, but he still excels in everything. So he got a little National Honor Society pen. And I'm going to use this little pen, and I think if it works, see if I can get it unclasped. I'm just going to thread that into this little string we had left over here. And this one, I'm probably going to attach up here. These little pins are not easy to work with. And I'm just going to thread that under our string there. I'll close it here in a minute. And then thread this is a little gavel. That's cute. And I'm going to thread that one under this little string down here. So this was Edward's journal that we finished. I'll again pin that in a minute. I may thread it up there. I like the loop of it looping a little bit better. Yeah, I like that. Again, I'll put something else on that one, but this is the journal we made for Edward. And I made a copy of him. And so this is his picture from that old book. And so I made a copy of that. And this is going to be one of the pages I've got planned for using inside his journal. So this is going to be on one of the pages. And I've also, just a tidbit of what's coming up. Again, we're going to be working in this journal, trying to work in at least once a month. And so here is a page that I'm going to end up putting in here. And I wanted to tell you what's going on here. This is some of the races that they had during that time. And this guy is going to be something I want you to take note of. I'll tell you more about him when I get ready to add this page into our journal. But for now, this is what it looks like. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching through. And if you have any suggestions on Edward and the girl's story that we'll be making her a journal soon, let me know. I think this would be fun to do. Y'all have a wonderful day.